Dear learner, I welcome you all to the MOOC on Principle of Electrical Sciences. I am Dr. Sanjay Agrawal, Associate Professor in Electrical Engineering, School of Engineering and Technology, Indira Gandhi National Open University, New Delhi. Dear learner, in previous session we have discussed separately excited DC motor, and under self-excited DC motor we have discussed shunt bound DC motor, series bound DC motor, compound bound DC motor. Then we discussed characteristic of DC motor. In this session we would discuss what are the applications of DC motor, and then we will discuss speed control of DC motor. Then we will also discuss starting of DC motor. Then we will discuss construction and working of 3-point starter. So first of all, we are going to discuss application and selection of DC motor. So as you know, there are different type of DC motor like separately excited DC motor, shunt motor, series bound motor, compound DC motor. So because there are different type of motor, so there are different applications of these motor. So first of all, we are going to discuss the applications of separately excited motor. Separately excited motor can be used to get the very accurate speed. Moreover, these motors are best suited where speed variation is required from very low value to high value. These motors are used in steel rolling mills, paper mills, diesel electric propulsion of ships, etc. Now we are going to discuss applications of the shunt motor. So as you know, from the characteristic of the shunt motor, we have seen that it is almost constant speed motor. Therefore, it is used under the following condition. First one is where the speed between no load to full load has to be maintained almost constant. And second condition is where it is required to drive the load at various speeds, and various speeds are obtained by speed control method, and any one of the speed is required to be maintained almost constant for relatively long period. So where these motor can be used? These motor can be used in printing machines. It can be used in various machine tools such as lathe machines, drilling machines, milling machines. Then it can also be used for the paper machines, centrifugal and reciprocating pump. This shunt motor can also be used in blowers and fans. Now we are going to discuss about the series motor. The characteristic of series motor reveal that it is variable speed motor, that is, the speed is low at high torque and vice versa. Moreover, at light loads or at no loads, motor attains dangerously high speed. Therefore, it is employed under the following condition. What is those conditions? First is where high torque is required at the time of starting to accelerate heavy loads quickly. And second condition is where the load is subjected to heavy fluctuation and speed is required to be adjusted automatically. So this series motor can be used in electric trains, diesel electric locomotives, cranes, hoist, trolley cars, trolley buses, rapid transit system and conveyors. Now we are going to understand what are the applications of the compound motor. The important characteristic of this motor is the speed falls appreciably on heavy loads as in series motor. However, at light loads, the maximum speed is limited to safe value. Therefore, it is used under the following condition. What are those conditions? First one is where high torque is required at the time of starting and where the load may be thrown off suddenly. Second condition is where the load is subjected to heavy fluctuation. And the application of cumulative motor are, it can be used in elevators, rolling mills, planers, punches, shears. Now we are going to understand the applications of the differential compound motor. The speed of these motor will increase with increase in the load, which leads to an unstable operation. Therefore, we cannot use this motor for any practical applications. Now we are going to discuss the speed control of the DC motor, how you can control the speed of DC motor. So as you know, speed of any DC motor is directly proportional to back EMF and inversely proportional to magnetic flux. So you can understand this formula. N is directly proportional to EB upon phi, where EB is what? EB is a back EMF and phi is a flux. So this EB can also be written as V minus IA RA, where V is a applied voltage, or you can say supply voltage, and IA is a armature current, and RA is a armature resistance, and phi is a flux. So the speed of any DC motor can be controlled by adjusting the following. So here you can see from the formula that first term is a V, that is a applied voltage across the armature. If you are able to control the voltage of DC motor, that means you can control the speed of DC motor, because as you will change the apply voltage, that means you are able to change this armature current. So if you are able to change this voltage or armature current, that means you can change the speed of DC motor. Second method is what? Here you can see the second term in this formula, N is proportional to V minus IARA upon phi, that is a IARA. That means voltage drop across armature, that is IARA. That means this speed is also depending on this armature resistance. If you are putting some external resistance in series with the armature, that means you can change the this voltage drop across the armature. That means if you are putting this extra resistance in armature, that means the value of this IA multiplied by RA plus R will increase. So net this B minus IA RA plus R will be increase. That means you can step up the speed of DC motor. Third method is what? You can see this N is actually inversely proportional to flux. That means speed of DC motor depends on the flux also. If you are able to change the flux, that means you can change the speed of DC motor. As you can see from the formula, N is inversely proportional to flux. That means N is depend on this speed of DC motor depends on this flux, and this flux depends on the field current. And this field current is what? This field current is nothing but voltage divided by field resistance. So if you are putting the extra resistance in series with the field, that means you are able to decrease the value of the field current. If you are able to decrease the value of field current, that means you are able to decrease this flux. If this flux is decreasing, that means the speed of DC motor will increase. So this is how you can control the speed of DC motor. So first method is you can control the speed of DC motor by the applied voltage. Second method is you can control the speed of DC motor by this armature resistance, and third one is a flux per pole. Now we are going to discuss what is the necessity of a starter for a DC motor. So under normal operating condition, the voltage equation for a motor is given as EV is equal to B minus IA RA. So here you can see by this formula, if you are rearranging the term, so you can write this IA is equal to what? V minus EB upon RA, right? So here you can see this armature resistance is depending on this voltage, this back EMF and armature resistance. So just you try to understand this EB is equal to what? EB is equal to P phi N 60 upon Z upon A. That means this EB, or you can say back EMF, is directly proportional to the speed of the motor. So when motor is at rest means speed of DC motor is 0. That means EB is 0 because EB is directly proportional to speed of DC motor. So if we are saying that motor is at rest, that means N is 0. If N is 0, that means this EB is 0. So if full voltage is applied across the motor terminal, the armature will draw heavy current because armature resistance is relatively very small, because at this moment I is equal to what? V upon RA when motor is at rest. That means N is 0. So N is 0 means EB is 0. So IA is equal to V upon RA. This heavy starting current has the following effect. First one is it will blow out the fuses and prior to that it may damage the insulation of the armature binding due to excessive heating effect if a starting period is more. Second effect of this high starting current is excessive voltage drop will occur in the lines to which the motor is connected. So, the operation of the appliances connected to the same line may be impaired, and in some cases they may refuse to work. So, to avoid this heavy current at start, a variable resistance is connected in series with the armature. Here you can see in this diagram, and this extra resistance is called basically starting resistance, or you can say starter. So, here you can see in the figure that in series with the armature one resistance is connected. That resistance is a variable resistance, and this variable resistance is nothing but that is called starter, and this field binding is connected across this armature. So, applied voltage is V, so load current is a IL, and due to this IL current, this current is dividing in two parts. There is a armature current and shunt field current. So, this armature current is limited to the safe value. So, this IA can be written as IA is equal to V upon RA plus R, where this RA is what? This RA is nothing but it is a armature resistance, and this capital R is what? This capital R is the resistance of the starter, or you can say this is a variable resistance. That means you can adjust this resistance. So, once the motor picks up the speed, EMF is built up and current is reduced, because as motor speed is increasing, that means EB is increasing, because EB, or you can say back EMF, is directly proportional to the speed of DC motor. So, at this time you can write the equation for the armature current. IA is equal to V minus EB upon RA plus R, where RA is a armature resistance, R is a resistance of the starter, V is a supplied voltage, EB is back EMF. After that, starting resistance is gradually reduced. Ultimately, whole of the resistance is taken out of the circuit when the motor attains normal speed. Another important feature of starter is that it contains protective device such as overload protection coil, or you can say relay, that provides necessary protection to the motor against overloading, and no bolt release coil. Now we are going to discuss the starter, and under the category of the starter, just we are going to discuss the construction and working of 3-point starter. So, 3-point starter consists of series starting resistance in several sections connected on brass studs. A spiral spring is placed on starter arm to bring this arm to off position when holding coil is de-energized. Under normal running condition, the arm is held at on position by holding coil, which is magnetized by the field current. So, here you can see in the diagram how this connection of this armature and field are connected through this starter. Now we are going to discuss the operation of this 3-point starter. To start the motor, the starter arm is moved gradually from off position to on position. At position A, total starting resistance is inserted in series with armature, and field is directly connected across supply through brass arc and holding coils, hereby magnetizing the holding coil. On moving starter arm clockwise, further the resistance decreases in steps. At on position, starting resistance is totally out of circuit. The soft iron on starter arm latches with the magnetizing holding coil and hence keeps the starter arm on position. Now we have to understand the function of this no bolt release coil. No bolt release coil is an electromagnet which is series connected with the field binding. In the abnormal position, the holding coil is demagnetized and starter arm goes back to off position due to spring force. Now here you can understand what is the function of this overload release coil. An overload release coil is an electromagnet having a small number of turns of thick wire. It is connected in series with the motor and carries the line current. When the motor is overloaded, or you can say short circuited, a heavy current more than predetermined value will flow through it. Then iron pieces is lifted and short circuits the no volt release. Hence the starting lever is released and pulled back to the off position due to the spring tension. So the motor is disconnected from the supply and is protected against the overloading. Now we are going to discuss the power flow and losses in DC machines. So the power input of any DC machine is distributed as, so this power input is basically what? This power input is nothing but it is a useful output plus total losses. Now we have to understand what are these different losses that occurs in DC machines. These total losses can be classified as copper losses, iron losses and mechanical losses. And these copper losses may be classified as armature losses and field binding losses. That means these copper losses occurs due to the resistance of the armature binding, due to the resistance of the field binding. So this copper losses is what? That I square into R. That means current flowing through that binding multiplied by the resistance of that binding. Second losses is what? That is iron losses. These iron losses can again be classified as eddy current losses and hysteresis losses. Then because third losses is the mechanical losses, because DC machine is a moving machine, that means it is, you can say it is a dynamic machine, it is not a static machine like a transformer. So because in DC machine rotor is moving, so of course there will be some mechanical losses. These mechanical losses can be classified as frictional losses and windage losses. Losses in a DC machine. Now as we have discussed that there are different losses occurs in the DC machine like eddy current losses, hysteresis losses, windage losses. So a DC machine is used to convert mechanical energy into electrical energy or vice versa. While doing so, the whole of the input energy does not appear at the output, but a part of it is lost in the form of heat in the surroundings. This wasted energy is called losses in the machine. These losses affect the efficiency of the machines. A reduction in these losses leads to high efficiency, because efficiency is what? Efficiency is output upon input. So the major objective in the design of a DC machine is to reduce these losses. The various losses occurring in DC machine can be subdivided, which are as follows. So these losses can classified as iron losses, and iron losses can be classified as hysteresis losses and eddy current losses. So iron losses that occur in iron part of a DC machine are called iron losses or core losses or magnetic losses. These losses can be classified as, first one is hysteresis losses. Whenever magnetic material is subjected to reversal of the magnetic flux, this loss occurs. It is due to the retentivity of the magnetic material. It is expressed with the reasonable accuracy by this expression, and so you can write hysteresis losses, that is pH, is equal to kH V multiplied by frequency multiplied by V suffix m, that is a flux density, to the power 1.6. So pH is equal to what? pH is equal to kH V F B m to the power 1.6, where kH is what? kH is nothing but it is a hysteresis constant in joule per meter cube, and V is what? V is the volume of magnetic material in cubic meter. F is a frequency of magnetic reversal in cycle per second. This B suffix m is the maximum flux density in the magnetic material, which is measured in Tesla. It occurs in the rotating armature. So to minimize This hysteresis losses, the armature core is made of silicon steel that has low hysteresis constant. Second losses under the category of iron losses, that is eddy current losses. When flux linking with the magnetic material changes, an EMF is induced in it, which circulates eddy current through it. These eddy current produce eddy current losses in the form of heat. It is expressed with the reasonable accuracy by this expression. So PE, that is eddy current losses, is equal to KE multiplied by V square multiplied by F square multiplied by Vm square, where K is what? K is constant called coefficient of eddy current, and its value depends upon the nature of magnetic material. And T is what? T is the thickness of the lamination, which is measured in meter, and V is the volume of the magnetic material in cubic meter. F is frequency of magnetic reversal in cycle per second. Vm is a maximum flux density in the magnetic material, which is measured in Tesla. The major part of this loss occurs in the armature core. So to minimize these losses, the armature core is laminated into thin sheet which is of thickness approximately from 0.3 to 0.5 mm. Since this losses is directly proportional to the square of the thickness of the laminations. Now we are going to discuss the mechanical losses that occurs in DC machine. As the armature of DC machine is a rotating part, some power is required to overcome air friction of rotating armature, and second one is it is required to overcome the friction at the bearing and friction between brushes and commutator. These losses are known as mechanical losses. So to reduce these losses, proper lubrication is done at the bearing of the DC machines. Then we are going to discuss copper losses, which basically these losses is also called variable losses. The various winding of the DC machines made of copper have some resistance. So when current flows through them, there will be power losses proportional to the square of their respective current. These power losses are called copper losses. In general, the various copper losses in DC machines are armature copper losses, shunt field copper losses, series field copper losses, interpole binding copper losses, brush contact losses, compensating binding copper losses. So all these losses are called copper losses in DC machines. Now we have to understand which losses is the constant losses and which losses are the variable losses. So first of all, we have to understand the constant losses. The losses in a DC machine that remain the same at all the loads are called constant losses. The constant losses in DC machines are iron losses, mechanical losses, and shunt field copper losses. Why these shunt field copper losses are assumed constant? Because whatever the voltage you are applying across the shunt field, we are assuming constant. So if this voltage is constant and field binding is constant, so whatever the current is flowing through this shunt field binding, that is also constant. That's why we are assuming that losses that occurs in the shunt field binding is also constant. Second losses is variable losses. The losses in DC machines that vary with the load are called variable losses. The variable losses in DC machines are armature copper losses and series field copper losses and interpole binding copper losses. Now we have to understand what are stray losses. The sum of the iron losses and mechanical losses in DC machine are known as stray losses. So you can say stray losses is equal to iron losses plus mechanical losses, or you can say these stray losses are also called constant losses. Now we are going to discuss the efficiency of the DC machine. In any electrical machine, the efficiency is always less than 1. It means that output is less than input. So for any machine, efficiency can be defined as it is a ratio of output to the input. In electrical machine, input power is the sum of output power and power losses. That means you can write power input is equal to power output plus power losses. So you can write efficiency is equal to what? Output upon input. So this output power can also be written as input power minus power losses upon input power. So efficiency can be written as 1 minus power losses upon input power. Now we are going to discuss one problem on the basis of the efficiency. Question is given as a 10 kilowatt 200 volt 1200 rpm series DC generator has armature resistance of 0.1 ohm and field winding resistance of 0.3 ohm. The frictional and windage losses of machine is 200 watt and brush contact drop is 1 volt per brush. You have to find the efficiency of the machine and the load current at which this machine has maximum efficiency. So from the given problem you extract what are the data are given. So here load is given as 10 kilowatt. So it can be written as 10 into 10 to the power 3 watt. Voltage or you can say supply voltage is given 200 volt. RPM of motor is given 1200 RPM. Armature resistance is given as 0.1 ohm. Series winding resistance is given 0.3 ohm. Voltage per brush is given as 1 volt per brush and friction and windage losses are 200 watt. So you have to find out the load current. So load current is what? Basically load is given. So load divided by voltage is load current. So this load current IL is equal to what? Load divided by voltage. And what is the load? Load is 10 kilowatt divided by 200 volt. So it comes 50 ampere. So you are able to get the load current is 50 ampere. Because it is a DC series motor, so in the case of DC series motor, load current is equal to armature current. That means armature current is also 50 ampere because load current is a 50 ampere. So as you know, the armature copper losses is what? This armature copper losses can be written as Ia square into Ra. So because you have already calculated the value of the armature current, that is a 50 ampere. So armature copper losses is 50 square multiplied by 0.1, so it comes 250 watt. Now you have to calculate the series field copper losses. So it can be written as IAC square into RAC because it is a series motor. So IAC is equal to this load current or you can say armature current. So this value is also 50 ampere. So series field copper losses is what? 50 square multiplied by 0.3. It comes 750 watt. So total copper losses is what? 250 plus 750, so it comes 1000 watt. Because brush contact losses you have to find out. So it can be written as 2 multiplied by VV into IA because voltage per brush is given, that is a 1. So 2 brushes are used, 2, so it can be written as 2 into 1 into 50, so it comes 100 watt. So here friction and windage losses are 200 watt. Efficiency will be maximum when this iron losses is equal to copper losses or you can say, so it comes 1000 watt. So total losses can be written as iron losses plus copper losses plus brush contact losses plus friction and windage losses. So iron losses is 1000 watt, copper losses is also 1000 watt, brush contact loss is 100 watt, friction and windage losses is 200 watt. So total losses comes equal to 2300 watt. And output is what? Output is 10 kilowatt, so it can be written as 10,000 watt. So because you have to find out the efficiency, so efficiency is equal to what? Output upon input. So input it can be written as output plus losses. Output is what? It is 10,000 watt. Just you add the losses, that is 2300 watt. So total input is 12,300 watt. Now you have to find out the maximum efficiency. So this can be written as output upon input multiplied by 100. So output is 10,000 watt and input is 12,300 watt. So put the value of this output and input in this formula. So after the solving you will be able to calculate the maximum efficiency, that is 81.3%. So dear learner, in today's session we have discussed different application of the DC motor and speed control method of DC motor. We also discussed necessity of a starter for a DC motor. Then we also discussed working of 3-point starter. Hope you were able to learn all the topics. In the next section, we would discuss principle and construction of three-phase induction motor and type of three-phase induction motors. Thank you very much.